Okay, boys and girls, we're going to be dividing fractions and a whole number. How can you divide a whole number by a fraction and divide a fraction by a whole number? All right, so here's our first story problem, and it says Maya walked 2 miles, a 2-mile fitness trail. She stopped to exercise every 1/5 mile. How many times does Maya stop to exercise? So they drew a number line for us from 0 to 2 because it's 2 miles, and they divided it into fifths because she stopped every fifth. So this is 1/5, this is 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. Label the number line. Okay, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5 is the same as 1 whole. 6/5, 7/5, 8/5, 9/5, 10/5, which is 2 wholes. There are how many 1/5? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can use the relationship between multiplication and division to explain your solution. So how they're doing that is, because the inverse operation is always easier to work with, it seems like. 2 divided by 1/5 is 10, because 10 times 1/5 equals 2. Well, we could do that because 10 over 1, we get 10/5, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. So Maya stops to exercise 10 times. So is what I've noticed so far just by stopping and looking at it. If I start with a whole number and I divide it into equal parts of a fraction, I still get a whole number. All right, let's see if that trend or pattern continues. Roger has 2 yards of string. He cuts the string into pieces that is 1/3 long. How many pieces does he get? Okay, so we could use the fraction bars. So you'd get 2 of them out, and you would please lay out 1/3 till you have them all full. And how many pieces are there? Figure that out. There are 6. So 2 divided by 1/3, we still got a whole number of 6, or 6 times 1/3 is 2, so it's 6 pieces. All right, let's move on. So far we've had only whole numbers when we divide a whole number by a fraction. When dividing a whole number by a fraction, how does your quotient compare to your dividend? Okay, so if we went back to what we already know, our quotient was a whole number just like our dividend. So our quotient was a whole number just like our dividend. Okay, explain how knowing the numbers of fifths in 1 could help you to figure out that. Well, if I know there are 5/5 in 1, then I just have to double that to 10/5 in 2. Describe how you would find 4 divided by 1/5. Well, I would just take what? 4 times 5, because in every 1 whole there are 5/5. So times 4, and I get 20/5. I get 20 of them. Okay, let's see if you make another connection. You can use fraction strips to divide that fraction by a whole number. Callie shares half of a package of clay equally among her friends of each of 2 friends. What fraction of the whole package of clay will each friend get? So now we've got a half, because that's all we have compared to a whole. You always put your whole out. She only has a half of a strip, and she's going to break it into 3 equal parts. So now we have 1/2 divided by 3. So if I start with a fraction, and divide it by a whole number, do you think I'm going to get a whole number? Well, I don't think so, because I don't have a whole number there. So what fraction strips would fit underneath this 1/2 equally? So I would like you to experiment with that and get them out. Okay, I hope you figured out that 1/6, each piece is 1/6 of the whole. Record 1/6, because 1/6 times 3 is a half. Well, let's figure that out. 1/6 times 3, and 3 over 1, so we get 3/6. We can simplify that by 3, 1/2. So everybody gets 1/6. So you can use multiplication on that when you're dividing. And did you notice when I divided, my dividend was a fraction, my answer was a fraction? That's kind of important to know if you got it right or not. All right, let's show what we know, share and show. So if I have 3 divided by 1/3, that means I got 3 whole ones. That means I'm going to have a whole number. How many is that going to be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 3 over 3 equals 1 whole times 3 is 9. So 1/9, because 1/9 times 1/3, or not 1/9, I'm sorry, 9. 9 times 1/3 equals 3 whole. All right, what label should I write for each of the smaller ones? Well, they're 1/6, because we're dividing a whole one into 6. So if I divide it, I'm starting with a whole, and if I divide them, so it takes how many to make a whole? 6 times 3, so it's 18, and 18 times 1/6 equals 6. All right, over here, 1/2. Now we're starting with a what? A fraction. So our quotient's going to be a fraction. And I have 1/4, and I'm dividing it into 2 equal parts, and I get 1/8. So 1/8 times 2 equals 1/4. All right, either use fraction lines, a number line, or fraction strip, whichever works easier for you to do. To figure those 3 out, I would like you and your partner to do number 8. And we'll skip this one and come back. On your homework page, let's do the evens, not 12, and 1 or 2, and the whole back. Start really paying attention to what you're noticing, and that will help you with dividing fractions. Right now we're using tools. Pretty soon you'll be able to figure it out without a tool. But right now it's great to use a tool.